Welcome in to Odd Man Rush. Will Highland, Kyle Diezel. Round two of the Stanley Cup playoffs is underway. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed all the playoff hockey we have going on. We'll recap the first round as best we can, and then we'll preview the second round, which is low-key already begun as best we can. And then we'll talk about the draft. And we'll do all this in as abbreviated but as detailed a show as possible. But before we jump into the hockey, first of all, I hope you're all enjoying the tremendous new cover art that we have um, for the show. Would like to hear your thoughts on that, fans. But before we actually talk about hockey, we have to get the uh, monthly Kyle Diesel weather report. Kyle, how's the weather?
It's terrible. It's been raining since I think Sunday afternoon. It hasn't really stopped. It's supposed to continue raining until Saturday. So not a great week here in Boston, but hey, it's gonna be up in the 70s later on this week, and then next week's gonna be beautiful golf weather. I'll be out golfing probably Sunday through Tuesday. So that's how I'm beginning my kind of summer season. So hopefully things up in Maine are a little bit warmer and aren't as wet as they are here in Boston.
Well, last week was beautiful, and this week, then the weekends are terrible and the weekdays are great. So that's why everyone's frustrated, I think. Because we've we're suddenly in it's May 6th already. We're recording Tuesday night and the days just go by so fast and it feels like before you know it, your spring will be over. We won't have had a spring. It will be
No.
rain and then summer. So whatever. In the midst of all this, of course, is the NHL playoffs, and it certainly rained on the New Jersey Devils' chances of winning the Stanley Cup. Some may say a hurricane even came through. Um, but Kyle, before we have an emotional therapy session, because as a Bruins fan, I have nothing to root for. I was resorted to rooting for the draft lottery last night. But before we get to all that Eastern Conference draft stuff, let's start let's start out west. And they say there's no cure for the summertime blues. The Winnipeg Jets were about to blow, just as we thought, their best chance to win a Stanley Cup with that core group. Up 2-0 in the series, then get blown out twice. St. Louis evens the series at 2. St. Louis eventually forces a game 7. And Kyle, for the folks at home, why don't you tell us what happened in game 7?
Oh gosh. So for game seven, if I remember correctly, the Blues get jump start the game up 2-0 in the first. And then out of nowhere, there come the Jets. They finally turn it back on. Hellebuck finally put his act together, and the Jets were able to pull off a game of which I thought they were not going to come back and win. To now they're moving on to playing Dallas. I was very shocked. I had the Blues win the series. I mean, I got game seven correct here, but hey, I think the Blues put up a good fight, and I think it just shows you that the Jets maybe have a little fight in them. However, do they have enough depth on that team to go against a pretty good Dallas team?
Right, that will be the question. And one thing we got to point out, and I'm not trying to stomp on anyone's grave, okay? Um, but 2 years ago, Jim Montgomery had a lead in game 7 with less than a minute to go, and Florida tied it and won in overtime. Last year in a game 7, they were up 3, they had been up 3-1 in the series. Toronto Toronto tied the game or took the lead, and the Bruins had to tie it late to win that game. So in many ways, Montgomery was outchoked by the Leafs. And then this year they had a 3-1 lead with less than 2 minutes to go and a one goal lead with less than 2 seconds to go. And Winnipeg tied the game and then won it in double overtime. So I am I like Jimmy. I want Jimmy to do well in this league. I think the St. Louis Blues, as you said, put up a good fight. They were playing playoff hockey the whole second half of the season in terms of them having to compete with Utah and Calgary and Vancouver for that final spot and Minnesota even. Um, so give the Blues credit. If I'm, this is a subject for the off season, but I'm sort of wondering like, do I want Connor Hellebuck to be my to to be my goalie in the Olympics next winter, or do I want the guy he's squaring off against in net for Dallas in this new series to be my goalie? Um, and Jake Ottinger, I think, stood tall against that Avalanche team. The Avalanche got 7 goals from Nathan MacKinnon, uh, but it was Mikko Rantanen's 5 goals and the rest of that Dallas offense that helped. So where do you see Dallas now? Are you more confident in this Dallas Winnipeg matchup or less confident than you were prior to the first round?
Definitely. I don't know. I think out of all those teams that could have Dallas could have played, I think the Avs are probably the most power heavy up front offensively out of the remaining teams. So I think for Dallas, this is huge, especially with them in game going to game seven a few nights ago against the Avs and also being down 2-0 and then coming back to win 5-2. I think Brandon had a hat trick that game. So I think for Dallas, this is a huge momentum boost going into the second round. But I think overall, between the probably the two best goaltenders you have currently, probably in the West, going at it. Not saying this series should decide who is Team USA's future goaltender. Both had their slumps here in the playoffs, but I do. It does question though: is Hellebuyck going to be the future? Is he the goalie worth keeping on to as you go forward if he doesn't help you win this round? For example, how many times are the Jets just going to keep stalling to go forward? If you know what I mean. That's my concern for them. I do
Yeah.
the series overall. I think the Stars just had too much depth from line one to line four for the Jets to try to compete with. I don't think the Jets can, especially with a rough 7 games. I mean, Dallas also went through 7 games.
Yeah.
I
It,
think against the Avs is a much harder opponent versus the Jets.
it's the war of attrition in the NHL playoffs. And like the Winnipeg Jets had a great regular season. Connor Hellebuck is a great goalie, but the playoffs, it's
It,
just it doesn't seem to be their strength. And but like strangely enough, Dallas finds themselves in these wars every spring, and they've yet to have a cup to show for it. And in fact, they have only been to one Stanley Cup in the last 6 years during this run. I think it was in the bubble against the Lightning. So like they find themselves in these positions, like in 2022, a Game 7 war, all-out war with the Flames. The late Johnny Gaudreau pulls that one out for Calgary, and Dallas goes home early. The last couple years, 23, 24, they found themselves in the second round, in the third round, like dragging their way up against these juggernauts like Edmonton or now Colorado, or and now they're gonna have to take down a Winnipeg team that, despite their inconsistencies, is still capable of winning the series. So, like, I think Dallas does win the series. I agree with you. I think their depth is tremendous. Mikko Rantanen. I mean, wow, games his performance in Game 7. So like, I like Dallas in this series. But I'm not like completely just saying it's going to be like a 5 gamer. Like I think this was going to be another one of those long, dragged out series that we're going to get.
No, I agree. I expect it to be a long series, probably 6 or 7 games, I would say. But if it does go seven, P has never lost a game seven before.
Yeah, that's insane.
He is
Which is
7-0 right now.
which is crazy, and that's dating back to the 2022 season, right? When they lost. So yeah, they lost to Calgary there. And since then they haven't lost a game seven. It's wild, but yet they don't have a cup to show for it.
I know.
Because did Edmonton beat them in six? Is that what happened last year?
I believe so. They beat him in six.
Yeah. So like I don't really have a strong opinion on who wins the series. I think it's going to be Dallas. Um, but I think in the back of our mind, just as the Binnington Hellebuck goalie conversation on the international stage was one heading into the first round, I do think, the future of the Americans in net, you know, next winter in the Olympics, this matchup could have a lot to say about that because they're going to start building this team in the late summer, early fall. They're going to start thinking about it, and if they see if the recency bias is that Ottinger balled out and Hellebuck laid an egg, that's not gonna go well. If Jake Ottinger wins the Conn Smythe, it's gonna be really hard for Connor Hellebuck to be the starting goalie in Milan. All right, I know you like the Vegas Knights. All right, so Vegas gets the job done. Speaking of goalies, over Minnesota and Marc-Andre Fleury, who's gonna go play for Canada at the World Championships, so good for him. He can end his career that way. His NHL career ends in defeat in the first round. Minnesota, I think, exceeded expectations this year. Solid year. I think they still have a pretty good future. Um, what do you think though about Vegas and how they match up with now Edmonton, who disposes of the Kings for the fourth straight season? So yeah, what's your take on the Pacific Division and how that's shaping up with Vegas and now Edmonton?
It's gonna be very. It's except the opposite of what we were just talking about. It's gonna be between which goaltender can show up each night. So I think that's gonna be the huge different factor here. Hill and I don't remember who the starting goaltender will be for the Oilers for Game One, but it's
It's either going to be Skinner or Pickard.
yeah. So whoever shows up is going to be the one who decides the series. If they show up for all 7 games, for whatever, it's going to be whoever's the hottest goaltender is going to win the series. Both teams are very heavy high power offense. I would say would be go to the Oilers. However, they are line heavy. However, Vegas has a little more depth, but both teams are going to come in. They're going to be physical. Vegas is a very physical team, methodical team. They will slow the pace down. Oilers want to run and gun up the ice. So it's going to depend on, like I said, goaltender is going to be a huge factor here. And I know they're not the top tier goalies we're thinking of, but those goalies will decide if they allow 5 goals. We have games here that probably will end 3-1, 2-1, and those are the nights the goaltenders stand up to play. And then they're going to have some games where it's going to be like 5-3, 6-2, like just depending on if Hill can stand up, stop the Oilers, and methodically the Knights are going to win if they can hold down the Oilers or suppress their offense. Is how I see the series. I do see
Yeah,
them in
I
six.
agree. And look, like I said, it's going to be Pickard or Skinner. It's probably going to be Pickard. He was 4-0. The games they won, like the series changed when he took the net. So I don't see them giving it back to Stuart Skinner, even though Stuart Skinner brought them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup last year.
Yeah,
The NHL, especially in goaltending, is a very much what have you done for me lately kind of league, which is how Aiden Hill got his job 2 years ago, right? Logan Thompson was the darling of that series, of that season, excuse me, until he wasn't, till it's Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill ends up being the guy that gets paid, right? Same thing with the Bruins and Jeremy Swayman, and Linus Ullmark. Same with any goaltending decision that's been made in the league in the last 10 years has been a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. So, Like Picker is gonna have to go where the rubber meets the road
Yeah.
and go up against a team that's won, against players that have won. Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, if he's healthy, I think he is. Again, I barely watched any of the Western games. Um, and I mean, in that defensive core, like as you pointed out for the Golden Knights, it's physical. They're and they're all big guys. I think about how different that USA Canada game would have been if Theodore wasn't hurt. Um, maybe the United States loses both games, right? Um, and so the presence that Vegas has in their locker room, in their head on their bench with their head coach, in their net, with all of their players that have been there is impressive until you look on the other bench and you see a team that went to Game 7 of the final last year and has two of the top five players in the world on their roster. So like I am I'm bullish on the Knights still, but like this is much like the other series. This is anyone's series. I mean, the West really is just a completely different picture. I think it's anyone's series here. I like Edmonton. I picked them to make the final. We've talked a lot about the pressure that they have on them to win. They have immense pressure to win. Connor McDavid doesn't have a contract after next season, I believe. So I mean, the rubber's going to meet the road for them too. So I think the pressure might get to this Edmonton team if they stumble. But then again, I thought that against the Kings, and they made the change they needed to make to win that series. So I'm torn. Who do you think wins the series?
I'm going Vegas in 6. That's who I have.
Yeah, I know. I want to pick the Knights. I know. You know what I say. I like to dance with the girl I brought to the prom, and I did throw out that the Oilers are gonna make the Cup final again, but I don't know. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold. I didn't watch enough of it to make a pick like and feel confident about it. So I think I'll just go with you. I think I think last year was an off year for the Knights. I think the Knights. Um,
Well, they were really hurt last year, is what
you're
killed them.
right. I think they have the horses to make it through a series like this.
I mean, both teams also finished the game. They haven't played since last Thursday, both teams, so they're pretty well rested, I would say, or decent rested too.
And do they play tonight?
Yes, they played tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one to pick. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go Knights in 6 as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I hate it. I hate to do that and go against my word, but the West will be fun. An Edmonton Winnipeg conference final would be the country of Canada. And this take I'm about to bring you is, tariff free. Um, but they would go insane over the Winnipeg Edmonton final.
Oh, I'm sure they would go
Uh,
ballistic.
West final.
They go ballistics.
Especially, and this is a good segue, if our friends in Toronto move on to the East final as well. I mean, that would be berserk to have three of the four, uh, especially if Washington, D.C. ends up being the only American team in the Final Four. I just, I think that would be kind of funny. But okay, we're not gonna go there. Um, what did you think about Toronto and in Ottawa in that series?
I thought it was a good series. I think it showed us that Ottawa's starting to take that next step of they can potentially compete for a contender spot. I'm definitely gonna need to go back and look at things all over again as overall team. But I think they get the least a good run for their money for a team that wasn't expected to make it there. They made it. I mean, without Brady Kachuk's um, performance for Team USA, I don't think this team would be here or have made it this far without him. So I think he
Yeah.
lives under them. However, I'm still Maple Leafs are still a dominant team. I'm still wondering when they're going to. They should have honestly beat that team in 5 games or less, but they let them go ahead and go to six. I think Maple Leafs still have to figure out goaltending is the issue going forward, and then
Yeah.
playoffs. Are we ever going to see Austin Matthews show up? Question mark. That's my biggest question mark in the.
Yeah. I am. So I'm looking. Stolar's played all 7 games, and he had a 219 goals against average, which isn't horrible.
Well, I think he's out now because he got hurt yesterday.
Right. And that was what I was gonna say next. They had the guy. They had him. He had a good series. They had it. They had the problem solved. Last year, I brought up that game 7 earlier in the show. Last year, they had Wall. They had the problem solved. And then Wall has some sort of phantom injury, and they play that other kid, Samsonov or whatever, who.
Oh,
What?
this night was legit. He legit got
Right. No, no, no. I'm saying that they always tend to have an injury at the worst possible time.
correct. Correct.
Yes, I know the Stolar's injury was legit, but I'm just saying, like, Joseph Wall last year, like, you don't really know what happened. All of a sudden, he can't play game 7. We find out 2 hours before, and Samsonov plays, and we saw what Pasternak did to him in overtime. Like, they had the Bruins on the ropes. The Bruins couldn't solve Wall in game 5 and 6. Similarly, Stolar's was playing great. Now, they did, as you pointed out, I wanted maximum chaos. They let the door wide open for the Senators to force a game 7 because they had a game 6 at home. But Ottawa, I just don't think Ottawa was ready for the moment.
No.
Like it was one of those rare situations where the Maple Leafs meet a team who's less prepared than they are, and that's what happened. Now Florida, I think Florida personally in this series we already know what happened in game 1. They pulled it out 5-4. The Leafs win. I think Florida's got to be careful here. Is all I'm saying. Like Florida should win this series. I do think on paper the teams are even, and so you give the edge to the team with more experience and more clutch players.
Mhm.
But this goaltending situation now, like Wall, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one. I mean, for the Panthers, I think they've got to at least steal a game away in Toronto. I think game 2 is going to be a huge deciding factor a little bit, just because if they come back to Florida up tied in the series here, I think that's huge momentum for them going back to Florida because I don't know if Toronto's going to be able to compete with them down in Florida overall.
I mean,
I
I
I'm not saying they can't do it, but I want to see the captain step up. I mean, Nylander stepped up game 1 with 2 goals.
yeah,
Uh,
Nylander's played well.
he's played really well. I'm just wondering when everyone's superstar of Canada up there being Austin Matthews is going to show up and dominate the game like we've
Yeah,
already like Connor McDavid has done in the latter. McDavid
Connor
has done
McDavid.
last.
Well, we all know Austin Matthews with the game on his stick at TD Garden in overtime was he's cast for the friendly ghost. He was nowhere to be found. I am
That's my concern for them going.
yeah, I am I think the Leafs have the talent to win any series they're in.
Correct.
The Leafs have like at their disposal some of the most talented players in the league. Nylander, 12 points, 5 goals in 7 games. Amazing. Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the league, supposedly. 60 goals, 70 goal scorer last year. This year had some injuries, but was still he's still a consensus top 5-7 player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have yet to see it. They won that series against Ottawa and they won last night in part because Nylander is just playing really well.
Correct.
The scary thing about the Leafs is you never know when one of their superstars is literally just not going to show up. Like it's like literally not show up, not just show up and play poorly, but like Nylander last year missed a couple random games in that Bruins series. cost them. Matthews has done the same thing. Now they don't have Stolars. And then literally Tavares and Marner sometimes show up but don't play well. So
Yep.
this whole group is dependent on all of these talented pieces playing well cohesively, or having cohesion. And Craig Berube was supposed to be able to fix that. And like, we're ragging on him. They're up 1-0 in the series in the second round so far. So I guess you have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to figure it out if they figure out their goaltending situation.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't get out of my thoughts and what I've been hearing is they can't get out of the second round, it's not a coaching issue. It becomes more of a player issue.
Yeah. And to me, it's kind of always been a coaching issue. Like Sheldon Keefe, I mean, and all these other, Kyle Dubas, I think,
Mm-hmm.
their GM before. I mean, before he went to Pittsburgh, like these guys, they had a culture where you could win. I mean, they had good players. I mean, Tavares is number one overall pick.
Yep.
Matthews is a number one overall pick. At points in their careers, Marner's top 10 pick. Nylander's a top 10 pick. I mean, this nice kid who they brought up, he's good.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I'm with you. If they can't beat Florida, especially winning game one the way they did, then you know they're gonna have to win a game in Florida, I think.
Yes.
Um, because I think if they even if they go up 2-0 at home and then Florida wins two in a row, I mean, trust me, there's nothing you want to face less than a hot Florida Panther team. So I think the Leafs have to win one down there. I mean, they've had experience in the postseason so far, winning games in shopping malls in Ottawa. They might as well go do it in Florida too, I guess is my point. So, I mean, call me crazy, but I think this series is a coin flip. And I think I would have said it before the Stolar's injury and before the win last night, because I think those things cancel each other out. I think heading into last night, you saw what the Leafs can be. You also saw what they can't be in the same series against Ottawa. And I guess Florida is the X factor. Is Florida going to be the Florida team we've seen for 48 months or 24 months? Or really 48 months ever since they won their President's Trophy. Like, are they going to be that dominant team? Is Bob going to show up? Or are they going to show signs of wearing out?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I mean, I do think injuries will also be a factor. I know Matthew Tkachuk's been out for most of the second half of the season with injuries, so it's going to be a huge factor. However, I think this Panthers team is too vet heavy, and they know how to win. So I think they win this series in six. I don't think the Maple Leafs win game two. I think they lose game two. They go down to Florida. Florida wins twice down there. They go back to Montreal. Montreal sneaks one in there, and then the Panthers put them away in game six.
Yeah. Go back to Toronto. You said Montreal.
Oh, sorry, back to Toronto.
Yeah, same difference. Just don't tell them that. All right. Just had to throw that in there as a Bruins fan. Hey, so we've got one series left, or a couple series left to talk to. One side of the bracket left to talk about. And I don't. You brought up Montreal, maybe by accident, but maybe also on purpose. Uh, they had a cute showing against the Capitals.
Yep.
Um, I do want to raise my hand and say that it wasn't easy for Washington, despite
No.
the fact that they won that series in five. Because at one point, Montreal had a lead at home, only down 2-1 in the series. If they could have closed that game out, then it's 2-2. It's a different series. Instead, Washington cruised. I think Montreal's a cute story, but a little bit too young.
No, I agree. I agree. They are a very young team for them to make it this Eastern. That last wild card spot was very iffy. And I think we all knew whoever it was going to be wasn't going to have too much of a shot against this Caps team the way they've been playing this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget what my take was, but I did say that I wasn't calling that the Caps were going to lose, but that it wasn't necessarily going to be easy in their first round because they hadn't played for much in a while. Whereas Montreal had been playing for the playoffs forever, for
Yeah,
like every game was a playoff game the last 2 months of the year. So, I mean, credit to Montreal. I thought they gave up a decent fight, especially early in the series.
yeah,
Washington, we'll see if they can get it done. They play Carolina, and Carolina took care of your Devils.
yeah.
What went wrong for New Jersey there?
Injuries, but no other excuses except we can't score the puck. I can the list goes on. Mark Strom, I think, was a factor. Like he definitely kept us in some of those games. I mean, yeah, if you look at this final score, it was some of them were like 5-2, four to
Couple
one.
double overtime games.
Time, but like he's the reason why we're most of those games. But without Jack Hughes, the team looks like literally looks like a college team out there. It looks like a JV squad. Like it's just embarrassing to watch. It's kind of a big thing, but it also didn't help that two of our starters got hurt in game one defensively, and then we lost our third one. So we went down
Yeah.
to three rookies by game two, which is very crazy, unheard of. But we figured out what we needed to do for this year. We built up defensively. Injuries plagued them, but we couldn't score the puck. We need more goal scorers. I don't care what you say out there. If we're gonna have a shot for next year, you've got to go find guys who can score because what we have now is not going to get it done. Period.
Yeah, the Bruins were in the same problem.
And Carolina's speed just unmatched for us. We couldn't physicality. We were there. We just couldn't compete with their speed. And that killed us. But I don't know if this speed will help them in this Cap series. They're also a very physical team. Both teams are. Um, the thing is, the Caps are going to be a much high-powered offense. So I'm wondering how goaltending for the Canes is going to withhold
Right.
for them. Is my
Because Anderson has put up great numbers in that series. 159 goals against average,
correct.
936 save percentage. Part of that was probably a product of, to your point, the Devils rolling out a JV squad, but also, I mean, he had a good series.
Yeah,
936 percentage is what it is. When the puck is coming at you, you have to stop it. Right?
correct.
Like that's sorry, I Captain Obvious over here. Um, but can Anderson hold up? Because throughout his career, he's had a hard time doing that. You look at some of these series that the Hurricanes have lost over the last few years, and they lose a lot of high scoring games. And Rod Brindamore will say things like, "Oh, it didn't feel like we got swept because every game was close." Yeah, but you still gave up a bunch of goals and you still lost.
Yeah,
So they're gonna have that same kind of challenge against Washington, and I think Carolina, it's kind of like now or never, because like the big bad teams from your division are all out. There's no Rangers. There's no Devils. Goodbye. The Rangers didn't even make it. If you can squeeze past this Capitals team, then who knows what happens in a conference final. So I think this is a really important series for the Hurricanes because they took some big swings. They tried to make the Rantanen thing work. It couldn't. And they've really invested both in draft capital and development over time with some of these players like Svechnikov and Aho and um and they've invested like trade assets in this team. And so like I'm kind of wondering, like again, kind of like Edmonton, the rubber's going to meet the road, and the Hurricanes, they're going to have their work cut out for them against the Capitals. And you know, who who do you think wins the series? I don't, I have no idea.
my thoughts, my belief. I didn't watch much of the Caps games, but I do think just how this season has gone for them, I do feel like this is their year to move on to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they're going to show Anderson's weakness and capitalize on Carolina's weakness of goaltending. Physicality, I think it's a very even matchup, but as I talked about, goal scoring is going to be the key factor here. And I just think the Caps, this is their year. They're moving on 6 games.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this out there. I'll go I'll go Hurricanes in 7. I can't say all year long as an honest man, I try to be a man of sound character.
Mhm.
All season I said the Capitals were a paper tiger. I can't say that all season and then get to the playoffs and then pick them in every series. Because if I pick them now, then I'm going to get talked into picking them against Florida or Toronto, and then maybe talked into picking them in the Stanley Cup final. So why not just Hurricanes? Yeah, Hurricanes in 7. Why not? Aho, he's had a good postseason.
Mhm.
You know, um, let's see, Svechnikov. That's who I was thinking of. He's got he's got 6 points in 5 games. Pretty good. Aho's got a lot of time on ice and a plus rating. Yeah. I mean, they've got the pieces to compete. It's not like the Carolina Hurricanes are scrubs. I would put their talent on paper similar to Washington. So, yeah. I'll go Panthers, Hurricanes, and then out west I'll go Dallas and Vegas.
Okay.
Sorry, Canada.
Wow. Sports.
That was unintentional. I love those guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, couple things. Want to close up the show. I know you got to run too. Draft lottery. I haven't cared about the NHL draft in 15 years because in 2008 we traded Phil Kessel to the Leafs and got a couple first round picks. One of them ended up being the number 2 overall pick, which was Taylor Hall or Tyler Seguin. It was going to be Taylor or Tyler, Taylor or Tyler. We ended up with Tyler Seguin. Eventually, we ended up with Taylor Hall, but that's a different story. Speaking of the Hurricanes. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. And then I never really cared ever. I mean, I just haven't cared because I've always said that, like, tell me if you disagree. I'd much rather have guys ready to play in the NHL than throw a dart at a map somewhere and hope that a 16 or 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid is going to be like good in 4 years. Because we've gotten really spoiled with like Matthews and McDavid and Bedard and Macklin Celebrini and whatever. But most of the time, the NHL draft is a crapshoot because you don't end up seeing these guys for like 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
But I was really invested in last night's lottery draft because I was told by my fellow Bruins fans after the trade deadline that it was going to be great. We were going to lose and then we were going to end up with a high pick. Just to let you know, they won 6 games between February 8th and the end of the season.
Wow.
They went 6, 14, and 6. So they went 6 and 20 to end the year. It was like a complete stealth tank because nobody really noticed because they were in the playoff hunt till like 2 weeks before the end of the season. So like they were still in the hunt because nobody wanted the final wild card spot. It was like a hot potato. So Kyle, I was told that we were going to get a great high pick. Well, turns out a lottery um, is actually what it means. It's a lottery. You have no idea.
No, you literally
So
had yeah going in.
we couldn't go lower than 7. We ended up in 7th. We had a better chance of getting the 1 and 2 pick combined. Those came out to be 17%. Than we did of getting the 7th overall pick, which was 13%. Our best chance, despite finishing 5th, our best chance was to get the 6th overall pick. I don't know how that makes sense. That's stupid. But nevertheless, excuse me. Bruins end up with the 7th pick. All I can tell you, Kyle, is I'm actually gonna have to care about what people's scouting reports say. Like, because I don't pay attention to like the scouting reports of all these prospects. Like, I just don't watch. But there's three players, okay? Fam, listen up. Kyle, I want you to say if you've heard of any of these people, because this is now who I'm staking my life on here. And
Okay.
we've got Caleb Denoyer,
Yep.
plays in the Q. We have Jake O'Brien, who plays in the OHL for the Brantford Bulls, I think. Then we have my personal favorite, Roger McQueen, don't call him Lightning, who plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings. Not sure what a Wheat King is, but never heard of them. I know they're in the WHL. I do know that, but I'm not quite sure how to identify a Wheat King when I see one. But I know that a good name when I see one, and that is Roger McQueen. So I'm all in on Roger McQueen. He's 6'5", 195. Center was hurt last year. I'll take it. I'll take it. Jake O'Brien, a little bit smaller, but scored a lot last year in the OHL. So this is what I'm reduced to caring about now. I still say I would call up if Edmonton wins the series, I would call the GM of the Golden Knights that day and say, "Would you take the seventh overall pick for Jack Eichel?"
They would probably say no.
Why? They don't have Jack Eichel signed to a deal. They've got him for one more year. If he walks, he walks.
I don't know. If he wins you another Stanley Cup, I think you bring him back.
Right? But in my scenario, they're not. They're lose if they lose in the second round and he's entering his walk year and you have no contract future planned out. I'm the Bruins. I'm calling and saying, would you take seven straight up for Jack Eichel?
I'm sure they would accept it with another key piece, whether it's a lower draft pick or a player. I'm sure they would accept it.
Yeah, I would probably have to eat some of the $10 million salary for have them not eat it as I mean. I
Yeah.
mean, you'd have to retain the full 10 million. Yeah, so just that's my thought, guys. This is what I've had to go on. I have no rooting interest, just like you now. We've got no teams in it. So I guess we'll end with this because I don't want to end talking about the draft. That would be too sad. Who do you want to win the Stanley Cup of the eight teams left?
The Vegas Knights would be my team I would go with. That's who I have stuck with in the past. So can't be the Caps. They're in division. Can't be the Canes in division. Maybe Dallas. I have no hatred toward Dallas. Really, any team out west, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, the Panthers, eh.
Uh, no. I mean, Brad winning a cup would be cool. I'm just gonna point that out there. I know Bruins fans are supposed to pretend that we don't want to see that. That would be kind of cool, and it would also mean that we get a first round pick out of that trade.
So maybe
Uh,
it's that you want then to happen.
I mean, they just need to win another round for us, which we need the Leafs to choke. By the Leafs choking, they'll help the Bruins again. It's amazing. It's truly is a poem. Um, yeah, out of the East, I mean, I've kind of always wanted to see like a NBA and NHL finals slash Stanley Cup with the same cities at the same time and have them try and figure out whose arena in every night. We almost got it with the Miami Heat and the I think it was the Miami Heat made it. The um Then they played the Nuggets
Mhm.
in 2023. And then you had Florida and you had Vegas. But Vegas had lost. Vegas had beaten Colorado or something, and so we would have got it. We would have got it. Vegas screwed us out of that. So that's what. But I don't think we have any of those scenarios left because I don't think there's any Eastern team that has an NBA team that's still in it either. Because the Timberwolves and the Wild, only the Timberwolves are in.
Yeah,
The
because
Celtics only have the Bruins are out.
it could have been Denver or it could have been Colorado.
Yeah, that's
Denver.
what I'm saying. They're out though. Denver and the Nuggets and the Avs are out. The
Mm,
Mavs are out.
yeah, there. I don't think there's any. There's no matchups left.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of always wanted to see how they would do that. Like, oh, we gotta like get all the arenas matched up because you've got all the two series and four teams. Anyway, that's a non sequitur. Um, yeah. So I'll go Dallas. I'll go Dallas. It'd be cool to see them win a cup. Maybe we get a maybe we get like a Dallas Florida um final, which I know everybody in the northern part of the hemisphere, including most of Canada and most of the northern part of our country, would think was stupid. But that would be kind of cool. An Edmonton, Florida rematch would also be good TV. I just have to admit it. So
Yeah.
I do not want to see the Leafs, anybody but the Leafs win the cup, and I'm probably good.
Okay.
All right, fam. Thanks for tuning in to Odd Man Rush. I'm Will Highland. That's Kyle Diesel. Hope you enjoyed the program. We'll be back after round two to talk about round three and beyond. But until next time, have a great rest of your week. This has been Odd Man Rush.